Number two, mistake in blow. Aberratio ictus. A person directed the blow at an intended victim, but because of poor aim, that blow landed on somebody else. In aberratio ictus, the intended victim and the actual victim are both at the scene of the crime. Say, for example, A shot at B, but because of lack of precision, hit C instead. So note, there are three persons involved here: the offender, the intended victim, and the actual victim. In the case of People versus Mabugat, the fact that a person received a shot which was intended for another does not alter the criminal liability of the offender. X and Y were sweethearts. Y had been jealous of X on account of the latter having frequently visited the house of a certain Carmen. Their relations were such that X invited Y to take a walk one one the afternoon, but Y refused him, later sending him a note of excuse. On the third day, X went to the threshold of a neighbor's house where Y had gone to take part in some devotion. There, X, revolver in hand, requested somebody to ask Y to come downstairs, and as the person so requested refused to do so. So X said, "If you do not want to go upstairs, I will get Y, and if anyone tries to defend her, I will kill him." X waited, however, until Y and her niece Z came downstairs, at which time they went in the direction of their house. X, who was seen by the two girls, followed them without saying a word. It was only a short distance from the house where the devotion took place to that of the offended party. The houses being adjacent, as to the two girls were going upstairs, X, while standing at the foot of the stairway, fired a shot from his revolver which wounded Z, the bullet passing through a part of her neck, having entered the posterior region thereof, and coming out through the left eye, which was completely destroyed. Due to proper medical attention, Z did not die. So the issue here is, would the fact that proof show that Z received the shot rather than Y, for whom it was intended by X, after the latter's criminal liability? Ruling. No, the fact that a person received a shot which was intended for another does not alter the criminal liability of the offender. Number three, injurious consequences are greater than the intended. Prater intentionem. The injury is on the intended victim, but the resulting consequence is so grave around that what was intended. It is essential that there is a notable disparity between the means employed of the act of the offender and the felony which resulted. This means that the resulting felony cannot be foreseen from the acts of the offender. A, without intent to kill, struck the victim on the back, causing the victim to fall down and hit his head on the pavement. Note: Praeter intentionem is a mitigating circumstance particularly covered by paragraph 3 of Article 30. The three enumerated situations are always the result of an intentional felony or dolo. These situations do not arise out of the criminal negligence. People versus Kagoko. The facts of the case. X struck Y on the head. Y died as a consequence. The blow was delivered treacherously. Can the defendant be convicted of murder when he did not intend to kill the deceased? The ruling of the case: yes, X is liable for the killing of Y because his death was the direct consequence of X felony's act of striking him on the head. If X had not committed the assault in a treacherous manner, he would nevertheless have been guilty of homicide, although he did not intend to kill the deceased, and since X did not commit the crime with treachery, he is guilty of murder because the presence of the qualifying circumstance of treachery. Impossible crimes. The commission of an impossible crime is indicative of criminal propensity or criminal tendency on the part of the actor. Such person is a potential criminal. According to positivist thinking, the community must be protected from antisocial activities, whether actual or potential, of the morbid type of a man called socially dangerous person. Requisites of the impossible crime. Number one, act performed would be an offense against persons or property. Note, kidnapping is a crime against personal security and not against person or property. Thus, there can be no impossible crime of kidnapping. The number two requisite is the act was done with evil intent. Number three, accomplishment is inherently impossible or means employed is either inadequate or ineffectual. And number four, act performed should not constitute a violation of another provision of RPC. In the case of Intud versus CA. The facts of the case: four culprits, all armed with firearms and with intent to kill, went to the intended victim's house, and after having pinpointed the latter's bedroom, all four fired at the riddled said room with bullets, thinking that the intended victim was already there, as it was about 10 o'clock in the evening. It is so happened that the intended victim did not come home on the evening and so was not in her bedroom. Issue: was it an impossible crime or attempted murder? The ruling: the SC held that the culprits are liable only for the so-called impossible crime. The factual situation in this case presents a physical impossibility which rendered the intended crime impossible of accomplishment. Under Article 4 of the RPC, such is sufficient to make the act an impossible crime.
Created using Powtoon.